Good morning, everybody. This is James Fee. This is Hangouts with James Fee, Attitudes Across Latitudes, episode 17, I think. Right, Madeline? Is Madeline on? There she is.
That
Episode
sounds about
17.
right.
Yeah, so this is actually our first international hangout. Now, our Canadian friends may take exception to that, but if you touch the United States, you're not international, so get over it. We've got Gary Gale from Nokia. Hey, Gary, how you doing?
Good morning, James. Morning, Madeline. How are you?
We're doing really good. Thank you for joining us in an evening there in the old country, if you will.
Absolutely, and welcome to the opulent home office that is my attic.
Yes, I noticed there's no sun out above you. It seems dark out.
It's 6 p.m. here, and the British winter is in full grip.
Right. Yeah. Well, such as it is. So, where are you in London town? Or are you elsewhere?
So I'm out in the burbs, a little place called Teddington, which is quite near to Twickenham Stadium, the home of British rugby.
Rugby, right? That's sort of like football, but not really.
Well, it's kind of like football, only they don't need all of this body armor and cameras and guys with little sort of yellow handkerchiefs going everywhere.
Right, and as I said football, then you're thinking soccer, and we're all screwed up, right? Stupid language. Oh well. Is it soccer? Do you guys play soccer this time of year? Is this like a winter soccer? Is soccer a winter thing? Is it a? See, I don't even know.
It's kind of an all year round thing, but I think this is what Oscar Wilde said when Britain and the US, two nations separated by a common language.
Yeah, exactly. You start saying boot and lift, and I don't even know what you're talking about. So, for those that don't know who you are, I'm sure there's a very small amount of people. Why don't you give yourself a little introduction? Say what you're doing, and a little nod to the old Yahoo Geo, right? We got another Yahoo Geo guy on.
Absolutely. So, although the whole LinkedIn, Twitter sphere says director of places for Nokia, because we call it Nokia as the way the Finns do it, not Nokia the way you crazy Americans do it. Up until last week I was director of places, so that's basically anything that goes onto Nokia's map, which isn't the underlying spatial area. But I have a new role, I have a new challenge as of the beginning of this week, which is part of the new web and community organization which Nokia is putting together to add stuff on top of the map which isn't automotive related, if that makes sense.
Non-navigational things?
Yeah, absolutely.
Such as, what would be non-automotive? Because I live in the United States, everything has something to do with a car here.
Well, absolutely, and I've just come back from the States, and I would totally agree with you. But there are people who, strange though it may seem, do actually do stuff and need stuff which doesn't need an internal combustion engine attached to it. And so there's this sort of small niche market called pedestrians. There's people who actually want to get out into the countryside. The road has got us this far, but there's much more to the map than just the road network.
So you're looking at transit, public transit, and things like that?
Well, transit's already there on
Okay.
the newly rebranded Nokia maps, which we don't call Nokia maps anymore. We call it Here Maps, but it's Nokia Maps. But it's bringing the missing dimensions to the map. It's making the map a lot more relevant. It's making it a lot more rich. And also, the other thing is it's making it a lot more timely, because when you have an automotive navigation grade map, you kind of want to rely on it. There's these guys who drive around places in emergency service vehicles, and they want to pick somebody up to take them to hospital. They kind of want to make sure that they're going to the right street address. Ditto with all of the other emergency services. Now, that takes time to put together. And one of the big criticisms from people who are used to internet time, which is, I've done something, I want to see it now, damn it, why don't I? Is when they start to sort of do the user contributed content route into a map, they don't see it immediately because it's got to go through all of this verification process to make sure people really can rely on it if it's a matter of life and death. So we're trying to sort of work with that, but then bring it into the internet age fully, where stuff that people add to the map, it's on the map as quick as we can get it.
Sort of OSM-ish? I mean, you're almost talking about, you know, add a node, and then all of a sudden, you know, a couple hours later, there it appears. I mean, is that?
It's definitely contributed information to the underlying spatial areas, but you know, OSM does not have the monopoly on user contributed content.
Ooh. We'll get a little bit more into that. I'll ask you a question about that a little bit later. But you mentioned here.
Yeah, I thought you would.
You mentioned here. So why here? You know, what was wrong with Nokia Maps?
Well, you know, it depends on who you talk to. If you go and talk to the big automotive companies, for example, who still give us an awfully large amount of business, they're like, what is this Nokia? You know, you're guys from Finland who used to make tractor parts and rubber Wellington boots, and now you're doing this mobile phone thing. I mean, we don't know you. Give us Navtech back. We know Navtech. We're comfortable with Navtech. And then on the flip side, you go out to you know, the Web 2.0 scripting generation, and they're like, Navtech, are you still around? I mean, what is that all about? So, you know, it's the age-old adage. You can please some people some of the time, but not all the people all of the time. So we took a complete break, and the marketing guys with the Whale Song CDs and the Joss sticks laboured long and hard under far too many grande venti, skinny mochachinos, and here Maps was born.
Yeah, because I mean, it was OV Maps, and then it's Nokia Maps, and it's here. It's almost like you guys have been hanging around Microsoft so long. You keep renaming things again and again and again, and you confuse everybody, right? Well,
OV was a great idea. It just
what was that? OV was a great idea in theory, but in practice.
What was OV? I'm not familiar. Could you tell me what OV was?
So OV was the Finnish for door. And the idea was it was a consistent brand and a consistent way of doing things right across Nokia's old Symbian ecosystem. The days when Nokia was absolutely synonymous with the smartphone and with the mobile phone, and it kind of got a little bit fragmented. It didn't quite work. So we were still in the process of trying to bring all of the wonderful geo and carto goodness that Navtech had to offer into the fold. And the standard market research thing, you know, you go out onto the street and they're like, have you heard of OV? And the average response was the blank look of incomprehension. And then, you know, like, have you heard of Nokia? Oh, yeah, mobile phones, yeah, we know that. So Nokia Maps, blank. OV Maps, blank. So we needed to bring that a little bit more together, and also the rebranding from OV to Nokia wasn't just about that. It was also about bringing Map24 into the fold as well, which was another acquisition. So for the time being, it made sense. But then when the group, the business unit which I belong to, which is Location and Commerce, which is kind of the best of breed assets from both Nokia and Navtech, came into being, it was very, very apparent that you know, some people like Navtech didn't like Nokia as a brand, and vice versa. And you can either fight the good fight, and maybe you'll win in about 5 years' time, but 5 years' time is a lifetime in this industry, or you can go with something which will be descriptive enough that hopefully people can get their head around it, and also challenge the commonly held notion out there that Google Maps are synonymous with anything to do with digital maps.
It is, though, isn't it? I mean, to most people, right? I mean, let's back up a minute. So Nokia 5 years ago had sort of a monopoly on smartphones. Maybe a little bit older than that because 5 years was probably the iPhone, but basically everybody had a Nokia smartphone. And nowadays you've got Android, you've got iOS, you might have Microsoft, you might have BlackBerry. It seems like everybody wants to create their own mapping API on their own platform. So you've got Apple Maps, you've got Google Maps. I guess you guys are on the Microsoft platform. I guess you guys are on the Kindle platform. Um, how do you
Yep.
guys approach getting people to be on the Google Android platform and the Apple iPhone platform to use Nokia APIs, right? Because that's a hard sell for a lot of people, isn't it?
Um, it is a hard sell for people who are coming at this afresh. You know, you start developing for a mobile platform, you're going to go with the native SDKs because all of the documentation refers to them, and it's just there, and it's the path of least resistance. And especially if you're doing something startup-y, something innovative-y, you really want to concentrate a lot more on making your idea to be fully realized than you do to have to start digging in too deep to APIs and ecosystems. If indeed you even understand that there's anything else out there in the market other than the APIs which the bog standard SDK gives you. But with a lot of these things, I think eventually people start to take a long, hard look at the relationship they have with the people who provide their core infrastructure. And I'm talking very specifically about maps here. And one of the things which we've seen is that Google may be perceived as being synonymous with web mapping in much the same way as Hoover and fridge have now become those common nouns for vacuum cleaners and refrigerators. But I think people are starting to look long and hard about what it is that they're getting out of the relationship they have with their mapping providers. And let's be brutally honest here. What Google has done is very, very impressive, and it's very, very slick, and it works a heck of a lot. But Maps is but one part of Google's core business, and at the end of the day, I think Google's core business is monetizing their audience and monetizing the data which they get from their audience as much as is possible. I mean, we're sitting here chatting on a Google Hangout on Google Plus, which is automatically going to go under Google's terms of services onto YouTube, and it's kind of like, well, if you want to use Hangouts, then that's the price you pay. But people are starting to question the power that an entity such as Google starts to have, and especially if what you're doing is very sort of pertinent to your business and you're a small business. It's like, well, how much value am I actually getting back here from Google?
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, yeah, we use Hangouts because it's free and it's easy and all this kind of stuff. But you're right; it all gets thrown back in this huge Google ecosystem that they start tracking users and, as you said, making money selling me ads. Eventually you're going to see a little ad flipping across the bottom of the screen, to buy whatever. But
Absolutely.
So that's a very good point. So there's one aspect, and we've seen that a little bit with. I think it was with Foursquare when they went to, I guess, the Mapbox guys. They were sort of saying we want to get, part of it was a licensing issue and cost, but another one was we want the freedom to use, an API that wasn't tied down with a company that wants to make money off of them. So that's one aspect, but another one, I guess, would be the functionality of the API. What does Nokia bring with their API that you can't do with other ones? Is 3D something you guys are looking at in your API?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When that's going to come in a form that you can use it, I can't tell you because it's not quite there yet. But to go back to your Foursquare example, I think that's been used almost as a poster child for moving towards a Mapbox solution based on top of OSM data. And without meaning to be derogatory here, um, you know, what Foursquare wanted was the ability to style their maps in a way which made sense for their overall brand and the way in which everything looks. And with most proprietary map providers, it's like, well, here's our brand, take it or leave it. You don't want it? Okay, fine, off you go, find someone else. But also the need for a navigation quality map, which on Foursquare, especially with the when you see the venue page along the top of your browser, it's kind of map wallpaper. It gives you a point of reference, but you're not necessarily going to use it to get from point A to point B. It's just there to provide a nice bit of spatial loveliness, and it works really, really well. But if you want to do real hardcore stuff, you do need something which is a little bit more robust and has a little bit more history steeped in it, I think is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that a lot of it. People say, OSM's really fun because it is a pretty map. You can style it very well. It is very current for a lot of areas, except when you start getting into navigation, then you start running a problem. How do you do navigation with OSM? There's companies doing it, but you see it. I mean, I think the Foursquare app still uses the Apple and the Google APIs on the mobile devices, for that very reason. They have not dumped it there because of navigation. So there is something to be said about that. From a 3D standpoint, though, we're seeing a lot of this. For iOS users, they finally get a 3D navigation in Apple Maps. Android users have had, 3D in their Google Maps. Is this just a natural progression of navigation and mapping APIs to have a 3D, or is this just like eye candy, and we're going through this growing where people want to see things 3D, but the reality is they really don't care to see buildings and stuff getting in the way of their navigation?
Well, I think up until now, it's definitely been eye candy. I mean, it's been one of those things that the augmented reality fanboys get very sort of hand wavy and foot stampy and hot under the collar over. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the technology isn't valuable. I just think that up until now, people haven't had the ability to actually take advantage of it. It's always been a case of, 3D maps. We'll go and have a look at that. Okay, yeah, that's kind of nice. Right, now back to the 2D, which I'm familiar with, because the 3D just doesn't have the depth and richness that I want. And now we're sort of starting to go into the Z-axis as well, where mapping is concerned, or the Z-axis, if you want to be truly American international. And we're starting to get the ability to link indoor navigation, indoor maps with outdoor ones. We're starting to not only know what a building looks like, but we're starting to know what's going on within that building, and it's a lot more valuable to somebody if they're, especially in the Far East, where they have these shopping malls which are not single story and spread over goodness knows how many football pitches, but they're a mall in a skyscraper, and you want to go and get your coffee fix. You really want to know that the coffee bar you want to go to is on the 23rd floor, and for that 3D is utterly invaluable to visualize that, because otherwise you get this really clustered density of information on a 2D representation, which is just hell to look at. It's like it's death by pushpin. It's like the one I want, it's in there somewhere, and you're almost sort of getting in there, trying to get the pushpins out the way. There's my coffee bar, and right, okay, it's on the 23rd floor. But by that point in time, most people have just given up and sort of gone and looked on one of the maps next to the elevator.
Yeah, I saw. Was it Ed Parsons had a talk? I think it was Steve Coase that linked to it in one of his blog posts, talking about how Google was getting into this indoor mapping. And clearly, that seems to be an area that a lot of companies are trying to focus on. But, how do you were talking about, ZZ, how do you, when I'm in a big skyscraper, how are you going to figure out what floor I am without giving up a lot of control, saying, using Wi-Fi access points to figure out maybe I'm near the McDonald's or I'm near the Starbucks. I mean, how are you solving this problem of the Z?
So there's multiple ways of doing it. I mean, the way which seems to be predominant at the moment involves the building owner paying inordinate sums of cold hard cash to an indoor navigation system, who then come and basically wire the entirety of their building up, and hey presto, you've got instant indoor positioning. The only problem is that in order to do it, it needs this custom bespoke piece of hardware, which makes you look like you remember the old Motorola cell phones, where you used to carry around this big battery pack with you. It's kind of like that, and each one of the main players in the indoor navigation space, of course, yeah, they're utterly proprietary, and you can guarantee that solution will probably need a browser plugin to work on a desktop or on a laptop. It sure as hell is not going to work on one of these things. And that's a Nokia phone, by the way.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, but that's also an iPhone. So yeah, just to be totally partisan here. But we're now starting to get to the stage where you're starting to get onboard solutions which are actually viable. Yes, they are not the extreme accuracy navigation grade that you would want to drive to, but you know what, when you're in a building, giving contextual clues is just as important as go to the end of the corridor and turn left. Yeah.
Tyler Bell wants to hear more about doing hardcore. I think he wants you to expand on how is Nokia Maps API hardcore and how is OpenStreetMap not hardcore?
I'm not saying that OpenStreetMap is not hardcore, and thanks, Tyler. I love you too, brother. I want Tyler to know that I'm deliberately not going to use the word ethos in this, and nor am I going to use the word cromulent. But how is OSM not hardcore? It is. In fact, I think in some cases it's a little bit too hardcore, because you need to be an uber geek in order to really work with it. That's the reason why the likes of Mapbox doing that sort of Red Hat model are being successful. They're taking something which is deeply techy and deeply nerdy and geeky, and absolutely wonderful, but they're making it acceptable to the masses. So you don't need a degree in Potlatch and a master's in Mapnik in order to use it. It just kind of works, to coin Steve Jobs' Apple phraseology. But also, because OSM is a spatial map, it still has fun elements to it. So there's a project going on here in the UK with the geospatial faculty up at Nottingham University, which is called OSM-GB. I don't know if you've heard of this. Mm. So basically what they're doing is they're taking the raw OSM data for the UK, and they're sanitizing it. They're putting together a rule-based system that actually takes the different nodes and the different ways and makes it a lot more coherent. So a classic example is you've got a road and you've got a bridge going over it. So you have a way which then stops, and then the bridgeway goes over it, and then the roadway restarts on the other side of the bridge. Now, it's not an unreasonable assumption to assume that either the road goes under the bridge, or it's not a bridge, it's a tunnel that's going under the road. But you need to make that linkage to make the spatial layer much more coherent, and indeed, in order to try and start to do routing with a degree of confidence, and this is what OSM-GB are doing. They're taking the benevolent techno-anarchy that is OpenStreetMap, and they're trying to refine it whilst at the same point in time remaining true to the open source and the user contribution community that have created that in the first place. So yeah, OSM, definitely hardcore. Maybe a little bit too hardcore, but definitely hardcore.
So I guess the marketing pitch here is you could do this all by yourself, or you could just pay us and use our API, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's essentially,
totally.
you know. So what, now that here is released, what are the next steps for Nokia on non, I guess, since you're on Microsoft's platform for it. So not now, no longer your own platform, but other platforms. What are you guys looking at doing?
So basically, there's more than one OS, and we're looking to not be seen as the guys that do maps on Windows Phone. We're looking to be seen as the guys that do maps everywhere. So that means classic web, that means tablet, that means mobile, that means automotive, that means the smart connected TV that you've got sitting in probably a 42-inch plasma mounted on the wall. It's anywhere and any OS that is capable of benefiting from some map love.
Yeah, I mean, how do you accomplish this though? I mean, I think I have an iPhone, but I don't really use iTunes on here. I'm a Pandora guy, so I go out of my way to download and install Pandora, sign up and pay Pandora $30-40, whatever it is a year for their premium service. Somehow Pandora has hooked me on their service. How do you guys do that to get other people to go out of their way to install Nokia Map or here, right?
So well, if you're talking about the app, it's not only doing parity with our competitors, it's doing stuff better. It's finding those nice little vertical niches that that people care about, and delivering stuff in those vertical niches, as well as providing a good, robust, general mapping and navigation platform. And this is where the aspect of the community comes in, because and this is why I said that the OSM don't have the monopoly on user contributions. When I joined the company, I kind of assumed that the things that made the map were the guys who drive around in the LiDAR cars. And that is a substantial portion. But what I didn't realize was that there is an incredibly active user community out there who are using tools that we currently have to say, you need to come here. There's a new housing development here. This street is now one way. This street has actually become a cul-de-sac. And not only to flag for the guys in the LiDAR cars to come out and to actually redrive it, but they are more than willing to actually correct that for us. No, this shop on the corner of this block, it's upsized. It's moved 2 blocks down the road. This coffee shop is now, I don't know, a noodle bar, and they're a very, very engaged section of the populace. And all of a sudden, when I saw all of this, it was like, why the hell did I not know about this? Why keep this under your hat? This is fantastic, and you're now starting to see the first fruits of bringing that together in a much more coherent fashion. So if you go to here Maps, you can turn on our community layer, and in places where traditionally, the Western way of making maps just doesn't work. So yeah, it's countries where the economy maybe isn't up to the level that it justifies a fully automotive solution. You go to there and you look at the community maps, and you've got a fully fledged map, and it's all community contributed. You turn community off, and it's like, okay, so we have a river. We think there's a bridge, and somebody did actually say there might be a bit of shoreline there. And then you flick the community layer on, and it's like, hey presto, instant map. It's pretty awesome.
That's cool.
That's great. So Tyler Bell in the IRC wants to know what Nokia's take on the future of maps outside navigation and ads is.
The future of maps. Oh, I like that. You know, that's a really narrow, focused, easy to answer question. He's enjoying this so much. Revenge is sweet. So I think the future of maps is an extremely rosy one. You know, they're not going away anytime soon. There was much call about 2 years ago at Where 2.0, when it was still going, about the death of the map, and the exemplars of this was things like Foursquare, Gawala, you know, the vaporware that was the check-in economy, and also you know, geotagging on Twitter and other social networks. And it was like, well, the map's still there, but you kind of, people don't really care about it anymore, and it was buried. You know, if you wanted to see a map of a check-in location on Foursquare, you had to drill fairly deep, you know, 4 or 5 mouse clicks or taps on your touchscreen in order to actually get that. But I think that there's the realization now that really that was just sort of column inches for the sake of filling column inches by the tech press and the blogosphere. And for so many things, a map still remains the best way to orient yourself and to show anything which has some form of geographical context associated with it. Now, we tend not to teach kids to read maps anymore. You know, when I was growing up, and yes, I am that old, you know, learning to read a map, and to be more specific, because I was brought up in the UK, learning to read an Ordnance Survey map, you know, this was something that you had to do. That whole cartography style and all the little symbols, that's something which is still ingrained somewhere in the grey matter. But even if you can't read a map, even if you neither know nor care what long lat is, what eastings and northings are, you can still look at a map and orient yourself by it. And indeed, it's almost something that you do in spite of yourself. You don't realize you're doing it until somebody said, "Yeah, you're standing there with your phone or with a printed map. You're looking around you, or in no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I don't know how to read a map. I'm checking Facebook, but that's what people do. And I don't think the map is going away in any way, shape, or form anytime soon. At least not while companies are still willing to pay me money to pay the mortgage to do this. Yeah, you know, the way in which we represent that on a map is going to get probably a lot more gorgeous, probably going to get a lot more immersive and a lot more interactive. I think 3D will play a bigger and more important role, but the map's not going anywhere.
You feel like I gotta get a hug from you. That was sweet. You know, but I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't agree anymore, because we at WeoGeo, when you go to the WeoGeo Market webpage, you know, to buy data sets, what's the first thing you see? A big map, right? The whole page is a map. Because how are you going to find something? You got to find it using a map. Locating something is great with a map. I think you hit it right on the nail right there.
And it also aids discovery as well. You know, people like to browse. And that's where a lot of maps' success have been. It's not just, this is what I'm asking for, show it to me, but it's, tell me what else is around. Tell me, educate me about things that I might not know.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. A couple of weeks ago, I said, my son, he gets on Google Earth, turns on the Wikipedia layer, turns on the National Geographic layer, and just, you know, clicks on these little push pins to, you know, find out about the world. You know, when I was younger, I grabbed Encyclopedia Britannica, started at A, and started reading. But, you know, there's something just natural about using a globe to find, you know, find information.
Absolutely. And the next time I see Ed Parsons, who actually lives sort of 10 minutes walk away from where I do, I want to know when my Minority Report version of Google Earth is coming.
Oh, no. Right? Well, I guess we'll find out what those little eyeglasses that people are going to get for like $4,000, right? Whatever those things are.
Oh, is it goggles,
Google
glass,
Goggle, Google Glass, or Google something.
something like that.
Right? But they're kind of hipster glasses too. They got that old-fashioned hipster look to them. So I think that just fits in with the Google mentality. Now, before you
Yeah,
go, I have to ask you this question because I asked it about Tyler, and
sure.
I want to ask it to you too. What happened
Okay.
with Google Geo or Yahoo Geo? What happened? Why? There's some really awesome stuff there, but
There was some really awesome stuff there, but let's start with the good bit. Most of it is still there. You may not see it as immediately apparent as it used to be, but it's still there. You know, the whole Yahoo Geo layer was a nice, convenient offshoot of Yahoo's need to do geo-targeted advertising, and you know, Yahoo still makes a shed load of bucks out of advertising, so they're not going to switch the systems off. It's still there, it's still working, it's still powering. But I think that Yahoo and a lot of other of the large enterprise multinationals that you get, you get to that certain size, and the company kind of doesn't quite know what it wants to be. And Yahoo certainly didn't. You know, you come into the office in London, it's like, oh, okay, we're a technology company. Like, great, we're a technology company. Let's go and do cool tech. And then like a week later, oh no, we're a media company. But I thought we were a technology company. No, we're a media company. Oh no, wait, that was last week. We're now an ad company. And it's like, geez, guys, make your mind up. And that degree of inability to articulate what it is that you are, I think, impacted the whole geo stuff at Yahoo. And there was a lot of stuff there which was clanky and crunky and was a bit meh. But there was also some really, really good stuff. I mean, you know, the Yahoo Maps API, it was the first JavaScript Maps API that I ever cut my teeth on. And you know, it finally went dark last week, where they switched the servers off. And hold on a second, yeah, I've still got this on my bookshelf.
it's a collector's item.
Actually, it is because it's signed by Chuck Friedman. Yeah, I mean,
no.
Collector's edition. So you know, there's a lot of sentimentality there, and there's also a lot of stuff that I think was way ahead of its time. I mean, you know, I still think one of the best things that we ever did was Fire Eagle. It's just that we couldn't get people to understand why the concept of sharing your location at different levels of accuracy was important, and now you see the almost annual hoo-ha over yet another iteration of Facebook's privacy settings, and it's like, well, maybe the time is right for that to come out again. And also Flickr. I mean, come on, look at Flickr. Flickr started off as a way for professional photographers to share their wares in a marketplace, and through the likes of Aaron Cope, who's now at the Smithsonian, Kellen McCrea, who's now at Etsy, the Reverend Dan Catt, who I think was last seen at The Guardian in London. What you ended up with was probably one of the best geospatial data sets there was. And all of the stuff that Aaron did with Flickr Alpha and giving the WOA IDs that I still get passionate about and I still think have a place, a way to really work incredibly well. I mean, yeah, the heritage and the legacy that Yahoo left in Geo, I don't think can be underestimated. And I had a blast of a time when I worked there. You know, I joined there and I thought I knew how the web worked. Oh God, I was wrong. I had no freaking idea, and it was a real culture shock to meet these people who were incredibly bright, and they're trying to find nice ways of saying, you know nothing. Here, let me educate you. And yeah, if I had to go and do it all again, hell, I'd do it all again. I worked with some great guys. Even the self-proclaimed geotechnologist, ATM user, and bounder, Mr. Bell. We just worked so well together, and it was awesome.
That's cool. Well, fortunately, we ran out of time, but I'll just let you know the question you missed out on was from Tyler and some others who wanted to know what you thought about the glowing reviews of the Here mobile app. They wanted to hear your opinion on that, but you don't have to answer. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it was interesting. Now Tyler can't say he's the only Yahoo Geo guy who's been on. Now we've got two of them. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So
thanks, James. It's been great. Thanks, Madeline.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very interesting.
Next week, I don't have it confirmed yet, but I'm going to go out on a limb and going to just say it's going to happen. Kate Chapman from Humanitarian OSM will be on. She's going to be in Europe, so we're still trying to figure out if she can do it or not. But I figure if I guilt her into being on, we can talk about some Humanitarian OSM stuff next week. So yeah, same time, same place, same. Gosh, sounds awful. You guys ever watch Batman when you were younger in the old country?
Do you mean the extremely camp 1960s version with Pow and Zap and Bosch coming up on the screen?
Yeah, it was I guess it was very British in that standpoint, because that just reminds me of Britain. A lot of people going around with like weird colors and mod and all that other great stuff, right?
Yeah. We always go around dressed up as 1950s superheroes with speech bubbles. I mean, it's a national pastime. That and our car. That and our castles, you can't move around here for castles.
Right, they're always getting in the way of my scenery pictures, I guess. I don't know. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Again, thank you, Gary. This will be up later if you guys want to watch it again and relive Gary's views on OpenStreetMap and how much he thinks it's easy to use and all those other great stuff. And IRC, for those that didn't see, check the IRC log. We'll be on there. There's some good content in there as well. Have a great week, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Take care.